children and cancer. Let's talk about this in particular, because nearly 1 out of every 450 children will be diagnosed with cancer in a year. That is extremely disturbing to me. And you can mostly find them, the most common ones are going to be like leukemia, brain tumors, and lymphomas. And the reason why you see such a high rate of children is because these mutated cells grow so quickly, because you see so much growth in a child, in terms of their cell division, that these cells, we can, on a certain level, repair some of our DNA. But the children are growing so quickly that they don't have time to repair it, and then it gets out of control. So this is one of the reasons why children in particular are so, they're in danger basically from these toxins and these chemicals much more than an adult would be.
Growing a Healthy Child, where we help busy parents grow healthy kids with less stress and more joy.
Welcome to Growing a Healthy Child. My name is Carrie. I'm a pharmacist and board member for Plant-Based Nutrition Movement.
And my name is Meryl Fury. I'm a registered nurse and I am president and CEO of Plant-Based Nutrition Movement.
And today we have the pleasure of speaking with and learning from Jeanne Schumacher. Welcome.
Well, thank you. Let me just give you a little bit of background about myself. I've been in education, my doctorate's in education, for almost 4 decades, ladies. 4 decades. And I have been, I'm on a roll. I've been teaching, chemistry, environmental science, biology, you pretty much name it, I taught it. And I love it. I love doing that. And chemicals have been something that I've been studying a lot, because since World War II, we've been introduced to well over 10,000 chemicals in our personal care products. It's now up to like 80,000, I believe. So yeah, it's a lot. So I just want to share, what are 7 ways that ingredients in our everyday products affect our health. So today's conversation is going to be about 7 ways that ingredients in our everyday products affect our health. And I have to say, this is probably an amazing conversation that you need to hear, because most of the time we don't really realize that the ingredients in our personal care and in the products that we find in our home or surrounding our environment are very, very toxic, and what they can and do to us. So let's just dive in. And we're going to start with the big one first. Let's dive right into cancer. So what is cancer? I'm so glad you asked. You guys are great. Cancer is basically when a cell goes rogue and becomes mutant, and it leads to this process of growing tumors. And so it's basically this abnormal growth. So we have products or chemicals basically that are carcinogens, and a carcinogen is a known substance that is capable of causing cancer. So benzenes, you can find these in things like antiperspirants, deodorant, shampoo, antifungal sprays, unknown carcinogen. Asbestos, most significant is in like baby powder that they've used asbestos. And one of the big companies, Johnson & Johnson, just had a recent lawsuit for cancer because of their baby powder. So things like that, and that's a double vector right there, because it not only sits against your skin, but you're also breathing it in. So double vector there. So again, something that is going in 2 ways. That's a double vector.
Okay, thank you.
So vinyl chloride is used to make PVC pipes, wire coatings, vehicle upholstery, plastic kitchenware. And all of these are known carcinogens. Okay. Then we have another group, which is suspected carcinogens. And this is one of the biggest problems with, dealing with environmental chemicals, because we're exposed to so many. So it's really difficult to pinpoint that one chemical to say you are it. But if it's a suspected carcinogen, it's pretty high correlation that it's going to be, carcinogenic. So the first one up is formaldehyde. And they used to put it into baby shampoo, which is it's a known neurotoxin, and something that's toxic for your brain. You're putting it into something that's going to go on the brain. Wow, that doesn't even make sense to me. but you're going to find it in a lot of products, especially things like hair straighteners, right? Smoothing products for hair, and very, very toxic to you. They used to use it to preserve dead animals in biology.
Right.
You could smell coming down the hallway the formaldehyde. It would hit you like a stone wall. And they had to stop using formaldehyde because like the teachers were getting so sick and dying. Okay. So they changed it to another similar chemical, but yeah, anyway. BHA is another one that has been shown to cause stomach cancers and in tumors there. And you can find it in things like lipsticks, moisturizers, and other cosmetics. They use it for preservative. They use it as a preservative. So another one is coal tar, which you're going to find, it's a coloring agent, and they use that in things like hair dyes, right? And definitely pretty sure this is cancer causing. Now, the last one here, and certainly not the least, 1,4-dioxane, they never ever list on the box 1,4-dioxane. Okay, first of all, it is so toxic, we don't measure it in parts per million, we measure it in parts per billion. That's how toxic it is to the environment and to us, without question. But they never, first of all, there is no such thing as regulation, and they can put anything they want onto this. There's no regulation on personal care products. So what they do is they put in two ingredients, like for example, a PEG and a sodium lauryl sulfate. They'll put those two together in there. And in the process of mixing those two together, they'll create, as a final product, 1,4-dioxane. Like, are you kidding me? And they never list that on there because they did not put in 1,4-dioxane. They put in a PEG and a sodium lauryl sulfate. So that one is very disturbing to me. Children in cancer, let's talk about this in particular, because nearly 1 out of every 450 children will be diagnosed with cancer in a year. That is extremely disturbing to me. And you can mostly find them, the most common ones are going to be like leukemia, brain tumors, and lymphomas. And the reason why you see such a high rate of children is because these mutated cells grow so quickly, because you see so much growth in a child, in terms of their cell division, that these cells, we can, on a certain level, repair some of our DNA. But the children are growing so quickly that they don't have time to repair it, and then it gets out of control. So this is one of the reasons why children in particular are so, they're in danger basically from these toxins and these chemicals much more than an adult would be. Much more susceptible to it. So, let's start off with the big one. That's cancer, for sure. All right, let's get back to organ systems. So an organ system is basically a group of organs that work together to perform a certain function in the body. And one organ system in particular that is really disturbing to me is the endocrine system. And that's your pituitary glands, your thyroid. And we're seeing a lot of increases in problems with thyroid. So the organ system in this, these chemicals will have an impact hugely on the endocrine system. For example, triclosan, it's used in antibacterial, antifungal. It's found in soaps, and supposedly it's supposed to be banned, but yeah, whatever. I still find it in products, and it's still out there. Linked to skin sensitivity, hormone disruption, and possibly it's a suspect for cancer. Phthalates is another chemical family. They're used to preserve a lot of things, and the impact on the endocrine system, particularly for males, it will impact the females, but in particular for male to continually produce healthy sperm. If you're using phthalates, it's going to be a tough row. So propylene glycol is another one that's used in soaps, shampoos, cleaners, causes damages in the kidneys, liver, and is neurotoxic to children. That means it's toxic to their brain, right? So, and that is going to be impacting, this propylene glycol is going to be impacting digestive systems and excretory systems. So yeah, definitely some nasty chemicals here. And as I mentioned earlier, in 26 seconds, anything that's on your skin is going to be in your bloodstream. There's over 100 substances with endocrine disrupting properties. And that, to me, is so disturbing on so many levels. Another major chemical family is the parabens. And parabens is just a chemical name family. Like there's methylparaben, butylparaben, propylparaben. It doesn't matter. They're all bad. Okay. Some are worse than others, but they're all bad. And these are widely used in cosmetic, skincare products, soaps. And in particular for women, it's going to have an impact on your reproductive system in particular. So this, and usually it finds what I call the weakest link. So it could cause ovarian cancer. It could cause your periods to be irregular, your periods to be heavy or light. It could have a variety of impacts on you, but most commonly it's expressed as breast cancer. And as soon as you get diagnosed with breast cancer, they immediately put you on the medical treadmill and you're given a drug called tamoxifen for chemotherapy. That tamoxifen is rendered useless in the presence of parabens. And they don't tell you that. Okay. Propylene glycol is another one that's used in soaps, shampoos, things like that. It can cause skin rashes, contact dermatitis, but most importantly, it's going to cause the kidneys and liver. And it's a known neurotoxin in children, without question. So organ systems, all these organs working together are being polluted, basically. Europe has what's called the precautionary principle, which basically means you have to prove it's not going to be toxic to you or the environment before you can sell or, push it out there into the environment. But not so here. And there are a few things that are banned, like 13, as opposed to something like well over 1,100 in Europe that are banned. And so like the only reason why that they're banned here is like they determined, oh, wow, they dropped dead. I guess we better not use those anymore. And that's pretty much the only way that they're looking at these chemicals. It's absolutely insane. Yeah. Absolutely insane. So, and there's two basic types of chemicals because going back to my chemistry background, they're water soluble, they're fat soluble. And so if something is water soluble, it's going to go through your liver, your kidneys, and it's out. But if it's fat soluble, it's going into your fat cells.
Are you a parent or caregiver who is unhappy about how your child eats at home?
Wouldn't it be great if you were part of an active, well-informed, supportive community where you could work to transform how we feed our kids so we could make a difference for them and for the planet as a whole?
Well, you can. That community actually exists.
It's a thing.
It is. Join us and get involved. Become a member of Plant-Based Nutrition Movement. There's no cost to join. Join the 6 Million Seeds Coalition and launch a 6 Million Seeds project in your area. Contact us at 6mseeds@pbnm.org.
We want you there.
So your organ system is the whole systemic part. Individual specific organs within the body, especially dealing with, the kidney and the liver. You only get one liver, right? And once that's shot, you're going to have to get another one. And it's not like you can run down to the parts store and get another one. You would have to have a liver. You'd have to have a donor that wants to give you their liver. And you don't know what the quality is of that liver to begin with and what's happened with that. So anyway, but things like, and I talked about this a little bit earlier, the PEGs, this is used in industry to break down protein, cellular structure, which is like our skin, okay? Mm-hmm. And it's found in makeup, hair products, lotions, aftershaves, deodorants, mouthwashes, toothpastes, and it can damage the liver, kidneys, and brain, okay? And then as I mentioned earlier, if you mix it with other chemicals, it can go on to create something extraordinarily toxic like 1,4-dioxane. Toluene is petroleum. You want to stay away from petroleum products. Chronic exposure, we've got lowered blood cell count, liver, kidney damage, and it can affect developing fetuses. So xylene found in lacquers and nail polish. Ladies, please stay away from nail polish. Please do yourself a huge favor, especially if you're going to try and carry a child. You want to clean that up long before you get pregnant, and please stay away from that, especially if you're breastfeeding your child. You really want to stay away from nails and all the stuff that go along with it. It's not good for you on any level, right? The xylene is going to cause liver damage, and it is a narcotic in high concentrations. Another impact is the immune system, right? When we over sanitize our hands, we're not exposing ourselves to the germs, which increases our immune response. You have to give your immune system practice. It's not
Mhm.
going to know what to defend itself against. And so, the hand sanitizers, the antibacterial soaps, they kill the good and bad bacteria. We have good bacteria on our body. So these toxic chemicals, like, for example, these bacterial soaps contain things like phthalates, parabens, sulfates, triclosans. It can harm eyes, skin, kidneys, blood. And I just feel, now that I know how toxic these things are, back in the day, I'd be horrified that we put so much onto our kids, onto the children, honestly. The same thing along the lines with these wipes, especially ones that have a lot of chemicals in them, right? These can lead to allergic reactions or sensitivities that harm the skin. They contain disinfecting chemicals. And this is going to result in the creation of superbugs that are going to be resistant to these chemicals. So that's a huge problem. Another one is bleach. And a lot of people think that bleach is a great disinfectant. And they did a study where they found parents who'd use bleach at least at a minimum one time or more a week. They had higher rates of infections, including respiratory ones. The children in the household had a greater risk of having flu or tonsillitis at least once in the prior year. And because this suppresses the immune system. So the kids are getting more sick all the time. They can't defend themselves because their immune system is not working correctly. Asthma, allergies. Whoa. Okay. This is another huge one for sure. And again, I talked a little bit about formaldehyde before. It's a preservative, like I said, the dead animals in biology. But this one will aggravate allergies. And I remember when I was doing these in class in biology, it would burn my eyes. I remember that vividly. And coming out of biology class, my throat, I felt like I had a sore throat, just after one period. I can only imagine for the teachers, at that time that, you'd be doing 5 or 6 classes this a day, and I don't know. I don't remember the windows being open much, so maybe it must have been during winter. But wow, I remember really how bad that was. And I talked about the coal tar dye. This is used in shampoos, bubble baths, toothpaste, and specifically the hair dyes, especially to get black hair color. That's where you're going to get it from, this coal tar. And it's a known carcinogen, and it is definitely linked to allergic reactions and, of course, asthma attacks. And then there's these 3 chemicals, right? These ethanolamines. There's the di, tri, and mono. They're found in shampoos, lotions, shaving gels, things like that. Again, allergic reactions and maybe linked to cancer. The word fragrance, and you're going to see this listed on a lot of things, it's a term for thousands of chemicals that are untested and unsafe, potentially unsafe. It's used in everything, like laundry detergent. The one thing, if your one takeaway from this program today, hopefully, is to make sure that you're using things that are fragrance free, 100%. And in the fragrance itself, they put into that a lot of chemicals that they don't want to list. Again, there's no regulation on what they have to put on the label at all. So the term fragrance is used for everything. So they don't want to list it because they say, oh, it's proprietary information. I don't want my competitors to know what I'm using. Oh, stop it. I can give that to an analytical chemist and he or she can tell me in a very short period of time what's in that. So stop. It's proprietary information. What it is a way that they can put the word fragrance and hide a lot of chemicals they don't want us to know about. And this fragrance is for sure a trigger for a lot of people. And you'll notice a lot of people are very sensitive to smells. And that's because of the chemicals. Our bodies are telling us naturally, I don't like that smell. I don't like it, even though it smells nice to us. I always remember that fabric softener, how nice that smell was. No, fabric fresh, no. And it can trigger a lot of things. But the biggest one for me is the hormonal disruptions. That's the biggest part. All right. Another one is reproductive issues. And again, this is why Deborah Shapiro and we started the Pregnancy Advantage. because a lot of women are having trouble conceiving. So, I call it the trifecta effect. You have to change what goes in. So that's, the food and drink. We want a whole food, plant-based diet, lifestyle for sure. Salt, oil, sugar-free, preferably. And then you have to change also what goes on your skin. So as I said, 26 seconds, anything you put on your skin is in your bloodstream. So you want to make sure that you are choosing the best, because your health of your baby is only going to be as good as the health of your body, for sure. So that's why we created this program, the Pregnancy Advantage, because a lot of women don't understand this. And it's part of the problem. We get them to transition to a whole food plant-based lifestyle if they're not already there, but also to make sure that these chemicals, these endocrine disruptors, because a lot of these things can have impact on men and women. So we get the husband, the partners involved as well, and make sure that they understand. So one of the biggest categories for reproductive problems is phthalates. It's used to make plastics a little bit more durable. They call it the plasticizer, for sure, causing infertility in males and females. Toluene is used in cosmetics to get that glossy finish, like hairspray, things like that. It's going to affect your central nervous system, and it's going to harm the reproductive system. Again, the weakest link, whatever it is. These triphenyl phosphates, this is used as flame retardants or plasticizers, things like that. Definitely elevates a risk of fertility problems, for sure. This is one of the reasons why, for the Pregnancy Advantage, we help women to understand these toxins and to get them out. You've got to clean your house. Your house has to become your wellness center. And then to help women to change to a whole food plant-based diet. It's one of the reasons why I created the Plant-Based Academy, to help women to change. Because if we're going to change the next generation, we have to start with the mothers before they get pregnant, especially before they get pregnant. All right. So, and the last area of effect is going to be on the development of children. So, wow. This is going to impact either the mental, the intellectual, or physical development of children. And there's a variety of dyes, but I just picked on the red dye 40 that is going to exacerbate any kind of attention deficient hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD. Lead is a huge one. It was found a lot in paints back in the day. Now we have lead free, but we used to have leaded gas. And I remember a girlfriend of mine who lives in Brooklyn, and she was redoing the house, and they had a little small garden in the back, and she wanted to grow some tomatoes and some plants and things like that. She had the soil tested. If she had grown any products in there, most likely she would not be functioning today, because the soil was so toxic with lead from being in the city, from all of the leaded gasoline, right? She had to have that soil removed from her backyard, and then brought, new soil brought in to be able to grow any kind of food in there. But lead is linked to low IQs, developmental disorders, and this seems to be permanent, ladies. Okay, like once you get exposed to this, it does not change. The human brain, when it is developing, either as in utero or early childhood, it's so vulnerable. It is so to any kind of chemical exposure. So you really have to be very, very careful of what you're exposing your child to. And a lot of us don't realize, like if you're moving into a house, into the city, the paint peeling off the wall could have a lot of lead, and lead tastes very sweet to young toddlers. So they like to pick it off and eat it, right? Because it tastes sweet. Yeah. So again, we come back to toluene, right? It's used as a solvent. So especially things like, nail polish remover, things like that. Maternal exposure has been linked to brain development problems and attention deficit in the child. Fluoride is another huge issue. It's funny because you go to the dentist. I shouldn't say funny because, wow, they have this foam, fluoride that they spray into that thing, and then they shove it into your mouth. And then what's the first thing out of the dentist's mouth? Don't swallow that, because it's toxic. Yet we're putting the fluoride into our water and drinking it, and it's affecting us systemically. Another thing that happens and stays within our environment for a long, long time is these pesticides, things like DDT. And it's linked to structural or abnormalities. And if you look at, for example, we almost single-handedly wiped out the bald eagle, like in almost one generation back in the 70s, because we had put so much DDT in the environment that it caused the shell of the bald eagle to not develop normally. And the baby couldn't, the chick could not develop. And they all died. Almost one generation, we lost, almost all the bald eagles that went, became almost extinct because of that, or endangered for sure. So, they've come back because we've stopped, but the DDT still is very, very active in our environment without question. And I keep saying this is just the tip of the iceberg here. This tetrachloroethylene linked to hyperactivity, aggressive behavior in children, increased risk of psychiatric diagnoses. It's found in paint, spot removers, water repellents, cleansers, glues, suede protectors, things like that. BPA is another one that's gotten a lot of attention of recent. And now you're starting to see things that say BPA free. Technically, it is BPA free. BPA is a very large molecule. And what they do is they break off a little piece of it and they replace it with something else. So it still functions very much like BPA, but legally it's not BPA anymore. It's a different chemical. So they can say legally it's BPA free. It's easy for you to say. Polybromated diphenyl ethers. Yeah, neurotoxins. And prenatal exposure has been linked to neurodevelopmental disorders in the child. So again, I'm just talking about just a few of these chemicals that seriously have an impact on our children. And again, the children are much more susceptible because their bodies is developing and at such an incredible rate. So yeah, that is, in a nutshell, 7 ways that ingredients in our everyday products affect our health.
So that was amazing, Jeanne.
Yeah.
Like I said,
So informative.
like mind-boggling, overwhelmingly amazing in a good way and a bad way and a really sad way.
Yeah.
So thanks for all of that information. What we're going to do now is we're going to wrap this up. This has been part 1 of our incredible conversation with Jeanne Schumacher, and come back for part 2 where we'll actually get to ask questions and get answers. Okay. All right. Thanks. And we'll see you in a bit.